Okay. Hi, everyone. I guess I am live. I just want to test my Patreon, see if that's live. Um, um, don't know if that went. Okay, there we are. Oh, that's a little delayed. Okay, perfect. Okay, so can everybody hear me out there? Um, let's see. Let me put a chat in here. See if that's working. Okay, that's working. Mm, okay. That's good. Okay. Everyone, I guess I jumped on a few minutes early because I wanted to make sure I could get on this stream and Patreon. So what I did this morning over on Patreon is I made the third tier uh, accessible to the 7-day free trial. So I clicked that button. Now I had hesitated from that because I felt like I wasn't really super duper clear on the live streams between Patreon and YouTube. So we got that going over there, and I am going to answer some questions that came in through YouTube. I'll start off like that. So you'll have that in this video. And I think these are very common questions. So the first question coming in was if you have a hem, and I'm going to put this table over here in a minute. It's a tiny little table, but if you have a hem like this, where do you begin laying down your design? So to answer that question, because that's going to be a common question and we may have to repeat the answer to that, and that's okay. That's how we all learn. But this, you start it at the bottom of the hem. If you do not have a hem, um, I did another piece over here, and we're going to work on that too, because there's a few different ways, just a few, that I kind of toggle back and forth on that I want to bring you along with me. So I'm folding this hem down because this does have a hem. And I could end up sewing that back there. But if you don't have a hem, you start right up at the top of your fabric. Start laying your patches down right up at the top. So this is a second piece that I've done. And I did this because I want to show in this video today, as I'm sewing along, I want to show how you can just stitch around each piece as you add it. That's perfectly fine. That's the whole idea. However, you can start stitching your next piece and just leave the edges of that piece free from stitches, and I'll show you we're going to do that next. I was just waiting for a few more people to join us because we are a little bit early. And you can actually see this from Patreon today. So I'm going to move this table over, and I'm sitting on the floor so I can communicate with you better. So I'm going to put this over here, and we will get ready to begin here in a moment. So got my coffee. Good, God forbid if we don't have that. So now hopefully being on the floor, I don't spill it. So I have this little table that I had gotten at the thrift shop for a few bucks. And this table is it's really like a lap table. So this is going to be perfect because I can put it up like that and I can bring the computer screen down. But what I'm going to do is just basically get started because it's kind of just sewing along with you. So if somebody jumps on here and they have a question, I can answer it, and I may revisit the questions that I just answered, probably throughout this sitting and sewing video. This coffee is good. I hope you're enjoying a cup of coffee this morning. So I'm going to put that over here, and I'm simply going to begin, and I'll put the camera down in a moment, and I'll just start sewing. And that way, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about how I'm doing this. I have two quilts. I have this one that I'm working on and this one. Now, some people ask a very common question on do you add batting? Now, when I first started doing these type of quilts, I was adding an extra layer of batting. And then the backing. And you do not need to at all because the quilting is 3 layers. So when you're working this, you automatically count your base as 1 layer, and then your top designs as a second layer, and then your backing as a third. If you want to make it a little bit more um heavier and warmer and thicker and whatnot, you certainly can do that. So by adding batting to the back before you add your final backing. So with that, I'm going to put this down, and keep my eye. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. I will keep my eye on the chat over here because we're able to chat back and forth. I believe you can see mine, so hopefully I can see yours. And okay, so I was here on this one. I'm just beginning where I left off, and I'm going to sew this in place. Simple running stitch, sashiko stitching. And I'm going to close it. Oh, I'm going to put this down so you can see. And I'm going to close it going across here. Let's see. Okay. So, what I'm doing is completing the stitches going around this piece. I'm simply completing this. So this piece will be stitched on all sides. That's what you want to do. You want to make sure by the time before you move on from your piece, you want to make sure all four sides or five sides or whatever shape you're using is stitched around. So I'm going to pull, that didn't go through. Now, uh, what might be confusing people a little bit is I do a little bit improvisation. And for example, on this quilt, I'm leaving some of these flaps open. Like I'm not sewing, like I sewed the top, the edges, and I came down and I added a piece here and then I kept sewing. And what I'm doing essentially is I'm playing around a little bit with my edges. So if I want to add another piece, so for example, I'm going to sew this up first. I'm going to sew this right down and over first, and then I'll show you because it's kind of just an improvisation technique. I'm going to actually put this over here, and I have needles threaded ready to go. So, okay. So I hope everyone's doing well this morning. I see that there's about 3 people on. I would love to know if you're able to chat with me, if I'm able to see it. If you have any questions, just bring them on in. I got on here just a few minutes early, only to make sure I was on and connected with Patreon also. So what I'm explaining now is um, a question that came in about, do you sew the whole piece around? And I have started a second piece to show you. We're going to go over this too, because this is showing you that yes, typically you sew the whole piece in its place and then add the next piece, sew it and add the next piece, and so on. So we're going to do that. I want to show you how that's done because I decided to make this piece like that. Like I was starting out going back and forth, and I'm like, I'm going to mix people up. So, because it's a Carmella improvisation, it's so that's piece by piece, and we'll do that in a few minutes. But this one, so I'm gonna put the camera back down and just kind of just kind of recap it for you because I think some of you just jumped on. And so with this piece, what I'm doing is, yes, I'm sewing piece by piece. However, I'm stopping at the edges where my next piece would be either overlapping or underlapping. So I started here and went there, and then I stopped. And I just wanted to give myself enough room to add that next piece and to design it. Now, if you sew it completely in place, um, that's totally fine. The reason I leave it open is it gives me that option to place my next piece under or over. So, with that said, um, I'm just going to finish sewing this over here because um, I want to come back over to this and then start the next piece. But I want to do the other quilt because I think it will be clearer for you to see that yes, you can sew it piece by piece completely. You do not have to leave an edge open and worry about overlapping or underlapping. So we're going to go right over to that quilt because I think that will be refreshing for some of you, and you'll be like, "Oh, okay, that will be much easier." And that's what we're going to do. Because with that method of piece by piece, so I'm going to put this one to the side for the moment because this is the one that's confusing. So we'll come back to it because it will get clearer to you. So this one, piece by piece, you can still, when we come back around, we can still add pieces and do our layering and stacking. And that's what you see on this piece. This is what you're seeing here when you see that. You're seeing stacking. Um, so that's super duper simple, super easy to do. So it looks like this came out and okay, so I'm going to put this down and all we're going to do here. Now I had left this open, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to simply, because that's what's confusing people. And no, you do not have to worry about that because I think it's important that you see you can get an absolutely beautiful Boro inspired quilt by just sewing the whole piece on, going all the way around, and that's totally fine. That is Boro inspired because it's a type of mending. And we're just simply, this will just make it easier for you. And then as you get this method down pretty good, then you can feel probably more comfortable with improvising. Now, the only thing I'm going to do here, I just want to show you, is I'm just going to do a back stitch just to catch that really good before I continue running stitches down the edge. I did back stitch. And I just love being on here Saturday morning. I don't know if Saturday morning works for everyone because maybe that's your day to do errands and this is a holiday weekend. Although I do this every single holiday. I take advantage of uh the downtime that the world has and I sit and I sew and create and plan and work, and that's what I love to do and or write. Okay, so I'm just going to leave this back here for a moment. Okay, now you see these pieces all sewn on. I don't know if you can see, I'm going to hold this up so I can see what you're seeing. Okay, now we're going to lay the next piece down. And then we're going to sew. So this is what we're going to do. This is all sewn on. It's totally fine. I'm going to pick a piece from I have a tray. I showed you guys the other day this big old tray I got here. So I'm just selecting a piece that feels really good to me and that I love. And I'm going to go with this one. Now, this is the thing I was pointing out also the other day is um you know what too, I might be confusing people with the hem. So this particular one, we're going to fold the hem under because some of you are like, hey, I don't have a hem. Where do I begin? So I'm just going to fold that under and I'm going to pin it and start sewing. I will sew that under because I have a quilt that has a hem and this one can be a quilt with no hem. So There you go. Now, when you lay this down, you see the all obscure shape of it. You want to come about 1/8 of an inch at least onto this piece. Now, this just so happens to work out really beautifully because this is jetting out a little bit. And but this is going to be your guide. If you're not going to cut this to be really super eco-friendly, leave it like that. And if this is coming over a little bit, that's okay. Generally, you would not take a piece and put it, way over. I mean, you could, but generally when you're building your quilt, you're looking at about 1/8 of an inch. So this is coming over nicely 1/8 of an inch. This jets over a little more, that's okay. So my needle, I left it under here. Now let's see where I'm at. Okay, good. I'm right here. I'm right here. Now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over this way because I'm going to sew this, or I could just go down here. It doesn't matter because guess what? This whole piece is going to be sewn into place. Now, as I show you this and you get oriented to me stitching these edges, I think it might be easier. You start to see a little clearly what I'm talking about, like with my other little technique of leaving the pieces, leaving the edges open. But we're sewing the whole thing in place and I'm loving it. This is beautiful. And now, as you get more practice with this also, what you'll start to do is as you're going along, you'll start to add, like, do your layering and add extra pieces on there. Like, you'll just automatically decide you want to do that. So now we're coming up the edge here and we're going all around the edge. We're not doing any overstitching like I did with my other fabrics. And this is such a humble and beautiful technique. So I have to tell you, for those who are on, if you didn't see what I did over on the Patreon is I made the I don't want to sew that down too much there. But if I did, I can always trim this, so no worries there. But the key, and I guess I'm gonna have to trim it, but that's okay. These are the little glitches that are good for you to see because then you get an idea of what's normal and what's not and what's okay. And it's always okay. Um, you can always fix it if you have to take a couple of stitches out. Now this we actually do because look, that folded just way too much. So it's kind of affecting this over there. So that's okay. It looks like the last few stitches I caught the hem. I am just trying to get rid of the hem. I could cut it, I guess, but um see how I caught that? This happens, by the way. Um this happens. You're sewing along and you accidentally stitch the back of it to the other side of it. That can happen. So, okay, so we got that straightened out there, and I'm just going to pull that so I can see. So we'll put this back down, and this is one of my tinier needles right here. And I'm going to get my pins to hold that in place for me because it seems to be bending down, folding. a little bit more there than I want it to. There we go. That's better. So anyway, this little lap table that I'm using is very helpful when you're working on a piece like this because you have your solid surface and you can move right along. Okay, that's better. Now, I'm running out of thread, so I actually threaded 4 needles, and I think we're on like the second one. So, but this will keep us moving. Okay, so this I'm going to bring this back here. And if anyone has any questions, let me see. Oh, okay. Hi, Brenda. Um, Marilyn, yeah, okay. Still confused on the top edges. If have no hem, can you show an example? Yeah. Um, let's see. So yeah, what I'm doing here is we're getting rid of this hem. We're sewing that hem straight to the back. Um, so yeah, let's see here. Oh, I do have another piece. Let's do that because that's totally fine. Yeah, I got another piece right here. This is the good thing about having a lot of fabric. And I'm gonna, you know what? Oh, this is the other piece I'm working on, but um what I'm going to do, because I have my scissors here, and I have so much I'm going to take this piece and make it a little smaller and work from there because I think that then that will make much more sense. You need to actually see the entire piece so you can see it being turned easily. And then I'll worry about trimming this one up later. It's awful big and it's bigger than that one on the wall. So okay, this is what we're gonna do. There. Now, we're gonna start, and this does not take long at all. So there's no hem on here. So this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna lay our pieces out. Now these pieces I have here. So this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna lay our pieces out. Now these pieces I have are a little bit bigger. I do have some smaller. So I actually have a little pile of smaller. Perfect. So I'm going to pick this piece. This is beautiful. And I'm just going to lay it right down there. Now, super simple. So you bring it right up to the edge. You're bringing it right up to your edge, to your corner, and just placing it there. And you're going to stitch this whole thing into place and with your running stitch. And what's nice about a smaller piece is we can turn it much easier and you can see a little bit. Let's see. Yeah, you can see that. So we do a simple running stitch and we stay right along the edge, pushing your needle through. Make sure it hugs there. So when you get to your corner, turn your piece towards you. And when you turn it towards you, and your needle, it doesn't matter if your needle's up here or down here, you're gonna know it just orientates you a little easier to start going across um, that particular edge. So this whole piece is going to be sewn right into place before we pick up any other pieces. And this is probably the easiest way for everyone to get oriented. Now here I'm just doing a simple back stitch. And the reason I'm doing that is this thread is like over here. So I want to keep it, I want to get my fabric sewn on. And this is holding it in your hand like this is typically closer to actually the original Japanese way that they hold it in their hand, and the fabric is just slipping right through as they're doing their sashiko stitching. However, there's nothing to say you can't have it down on your table and turning it like that and just making sure you have leverage, and you're comfortable. That's the key. You want to be comfortable in how you're doing this. Okay, so here, get this over here. Okay, so now here, you see that sewn right on. And if you look at the back, it's sewn straight across the top. You're coming in a tiny bit over here because you don't want to be too far on your edge, because if you are, then your threads will pull. So that's the first piece. And now we're going to lay down the second piece and get that into place. So, with Boro, the beautiful thing about it is you can start building down this way because that's where my thread is. I can go down this way or I can go this way. Boro inspired, they go row by row, typically. Kawandi, they go around from the out in. So we're just going row by row, and I'm just going to place, I'm going to place this one up here, and I'm going to pin it, keep it in place, and now I'm coming around to stitch that. Now, there's nothing wrong with the fact that you're coming back over. Now, we could be a little more strategic about how we're stitching also, making sure that we end up over here. But it's not necessary. The only real necessary thing is that you get all four sides stitched on. And I turn this towards me just because it makes it easier. And towards me again, because now I'm going up this edge. Staying right on my edges. You stay right on your edges, and that's your guide. If you end up going, like I said, doing 2 rows, that's okay. That's okay. Now, you notice on my other quilt, um, when I was stitching, I sometimes had rows going across, and that's why, because I would just kind of stitch across that piece. And so I diverted off of my edges. but if you stay on your edges, that's your key. And this is just going to be gorgeous. I'm glad I had those small pieces there. And I usually start with a little pile of small pieces, and then we go larger. But after I do this, I'm going to jump back over to the larger quilt and work with some of those larger pieces. And then that way you can see also how you can get more oriented to how that's working. Okay, and here I'm going to do a very simple back stitch because my thread is out here and I want to stay on this fabric. Now, is that making, let's see here. Perfect. Okay, good. You got it. That's great. Okay, super duper. So, okay, that's beautiful. What I'm going to do, I'm going to leave this one like this for the moment, and I'm going to jump back to the larger piece here. We're going to jump back to this piece. Now it's a little bit larger, but the reason I I want to jump back to this one is because you get a little bit more of a challenge with the larger pieces as you're going. So I kind of want to show you how the stitching falls into place in that way. I'm going to have a sip of my coffee. And let's see, we have another thread all ready to go. So I'm going to put this down. Okay, and I'm just going to start sewing here and sew this into place. And the reason is I want to show you here uh, how you have this type of spacing to put your next piece onto. So that is sometimes a challenge to people when they don't have like just a clear, even space. They have a space that is kind of jagged, or there's just a tiny bit of the base showing. It sometimes gets them a little confused. So we're going to take a look at that, and we're going to keep this piece um, our working piece of improvisation. So if we want, we can overlap or underlap. So now with that said, what I am going to do here is I am going to stitch this whole piece into place. So our next piece we can see is going to be sitting on top. But how is it going to sit on top? What are our options? And I'm going to show you, because that's the beauty of the mending. That's what I totally love about Boro inspired mending. It's the paying attention to the details. And that is just what I love about it. And I love to show you and share those little tips with you. Now, look, I'm sewing this and this piece is like popping out. It's popping out. So we're gonna talk about that. We're going to do something about that. I'm not gonna stop stitching. I'm going to continue stitching. And this is why and how layering and stacking comes into play. It's exactly what you're seeing there. Now, I'm not saying that your pieces have to fall apart, not fall apart, but kind of not catch to use stacking because that has evolved into a very decorative, beautiful way technique adding to the Boro techniques. They have developed so many different ways to create with the Boro technique. But anyway, so this piece, okay, I love that that happened. I love that. So, this is what I'm going to do so we don't waste thread. Um, I'm going to tie this here, and then I will just continue. I find my scissors. Here we go. Okay, now right here, I don't know if you can see that. I'll put that down a little bit more. Right here, we have this space. And also, this is kind of loose. That's coming out. So this could definitely use, get my small little stash here. Oh, here's this the same piece here. This is smaller. So this piece actually will be perfect for stacking. This is layering or stack. I call it stacking, but as I understand it, it's called layering also. So I can put that right on top of that, and that will secure this piece. It will secure it because I need something there. Now, I also have this here, that space. So I could cover this here like that. Um, or what I can do is I can use this, and that takes care of both of them. But I kind of want to use this. Now, see if I put it here, I'm taking care of this piece. Okay, so I'm mending that. I'm reinforcing that whole area. And then I can add this piece over here, and you start to see the layering. You start to see that. And I'm being mindful of keeping my 1/8 of an inch here. So I'm going to leave those two pieces like that. I could even overlap that like that, but I kind of like it like that. So let's see here. So I'm going to pin that in place. And then we're going to do a couple more like this. I plan to be on here for a little bit. So now what I would love to do is get a day. And I don't know, I'm thinking Saturday is the best for me because then I'm not worried about planning and getting everything done in a timely. This I can jump on and enjoy. I'm working on it. But is 11 o'clock good? I can go as late as like 1. So let me know. I'm so glad you got this, Brenda. But if when you are working on this, if you come to questions, let me know. And we all know, unfortunately, um, the Patreon is a chat for members. However, on YouTube, it's totally free. We can go back and forth, but you can leave comments too, free, totally free, on the free status at the Patreon too. So if you see something over there, totally feel free to ask. So, let's see here. So we're going to tie a knot here. We're going to continue getting these few pieces um sewn on. So I'm going to start over here. And for this piece, I'm simply, let's see if I got that. I'm just going to go around the piece. Now, if I have an edge or one of my edges is not completely sewn, that's okay. I'll come back over and sew it. Okay. So I'm going to turn this way. I don't know if you can see that. Now, when you're sewing and you're doing it this way, it's totally, you're going to feel the textures of the fact that you sewed, but underneath here, it's totally fine. It's totally fine. That's part of the piece. It's part a of your design. You know, it's part of your that's what you're doing, a method of mending, remending, repairing, sewing, like that. This one, I just came back up to this edge. Now, I was going to go across, and I'm like, well, I'm going to get you mixed up. But that's what I did on my other piece. You see the lines straight across is just because the goal was or is to get these pieces sewn on. So now I'm keeping my focus. Oh, and someone said out there, she's like, it's just keeping your focal point, like using a piece to keep your focal point. And I loved the way she used that word because that's a very, very good way to say it. Is when you have a piece in place, use that piece, sew around it, and use that piece as your current guide. Like if you start looking all over here and you're trying to figure out based on what you just did what you're going to do next, then you're going to get possibly you could get mixed up. So now this is, and I think that's where some of you were getting mixed up, is I was stopping here like at my edge and saying, okay, now I want to add a piece. But I'm going to sew this on completely because the next piece I put on, it's just going to be overlapping this, and that's totally fine. Let's see here. Yes, 11 on Saturdays is good. Perfect. Yeah, it does seem to be a good time to just kind of unwind. That's what I think. I feel like it's a really good time to unwind. Got little pieces here. And maybe in time I can get a little bit wider table. So I'm going to keep my eyes out on the at the thrift shop for that, because that's the place that those things end up. A wider type of table so I can do demos a little bit easier for you, but this little lap table's working beautifully. So the thread just popped out. That's okay. We'll put it right back in. And I'm going to turn this. Now, I see here, and this is what I love about Boro. This these pieces are kind of splitting right here. So we have a space that might be down too low. Yeah, right here. We have a space right here. So that is a guide for us to know where to start strategically, or just, placing our next piece. Now, however, what I do want to do, because I could just keep building and building down this way, I could do that. But I have this space up here. So, bring this back here. I'm just about running out of this thread. So when you tie your threads in the back, keep them a nice loose knot. It doesn't have to be too tight. You don't want to hurt your fabric. If somebody washes. Now this is another thing. This is, in my opinion, it's an art piece. You're hand sewing it, you're doing pieces of fabrics. Some of you might be using blends, you may not use all cottons, but whatever it is, this piece of thread is all set. But so when I believe the best way to wash these pieces of fabric, definitely not to throw them into the washing machine, even if it's a delicate cycle. I believe spraying them with tepid water and maybe very mild soap would be the way to do it. And you could even leave the soap out. I'm going to be honest, because soap soap over time, believe it or not, can decay a fabric. It can decay wool. So so I would just spray and air dry that way. Okay, so we're gonna come back up here and add add a piece going over this way. So now I left this open because I want to underlap. I want to put a piece there. Um, let's see here. I'm going to place this one down here. Um, that's how I'm going to do my next piece, right like that. And I'm just going to sew this into place. And I need more thread. This is why I always do about 4 needles when I start a project, because it does run quickly. Whoops. That one's not going to go quickly for me. That's not going to go quickly for me because that was actually my sashiko needle. It takes me a little bit because the eye is wide enough to get this through, but it takes me a little bit. So I don't want you to have to wait. That's why I just grab a darning needle that is sharp with a little bit wide-eyed. So is everyone finding their supplies okay? Are you able to find a needle that's comfortable for you? And I'll put this back down as I sew. focus this way. Okay, so I'm going to go straight down this way. And you're probably like, well, does it matter which way I go? And it really doesn't because you'll have to go around it anyway. And and whether you're adding pieces or not as you go along, you end up going around the whole piece anyway. So see right here, I've got 1, 2, 3 pieces stacked. That's a layering effect right there. And then if you count your base, that's 4. So you're actually going through 4 layers. Now, before I go completely down here, I'm trying to get this so you can see. I'm going to, I'm not stitching it on completely because I do want to, I love that curve and I want to emphasize that. So I'm going to pick a piece and I'm going back to my larger pieces because this is a larger quilt. And I'm going to put this one in. And I left that one up. So you see what I did there? I just simply did a layering. Now I could just put that one over the green. I want to make sure it's over and put that. I actually like that much better. Did everyone see what I did there? And uh, so once you have the idea of stitching piece by piece, then you get the idea, okay, well, wait a minute, now I can play around with those edges a little bit. And so that's what I did there. So I hope that's clear. And if it's not, I totally get it. And we'll keep I really believe that the more you see what's you see the process and then you work the process, it becomes clearer. I was just telling a friend the other day, practice, that's the key to anything that you're learning. And it's during those times that we make our little mistakes or we're not sure. And then even when you know what you're doing, you're like, well, you make a mistake. It happens. It totally happens. Look how beautiful this is, though. Look how beautiful that is. I mean, you can't. And you know what? I didn't even try to do a red, white, and blue. Look, that just came out like that, red, white, and blue. It just came out. I chose that it just looked beautiful to me. Um, okay, that's good. Now, if you're going along and something bunches up, you I would say don't worry about it. I mean, there's a number of things you can do between actually excuse me, between actually just giving it a little couple of stitches and creating a beautiful little shibori effect to putting a patch over it to actually ripping it and resewing it. There's a number of things you can do. So, but it's all your creativity, what you want to do. So you see me following the edge here. There we go. And I'm going to tuck this down. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah. Now, up here, I'm just going to sew that straight because I'm just going to, uh, whatever piece I put here next in this space, I'm just going to have it overlap. That's what I'm going to do. and you'll see that. And then I think um we'll be closer to maybe everyone like seeing the few different options you have on how to sew these piece by piece, or just sew them on and how it just flows. Because the next video, what I want to do is I want to do the stacking. I want to have this complete, and then I want to and when I mean complete, what I mean is I want to have these patches full fully on to the base. I won't have the backing on or any of that. I will have the pieces, the patches, um, fully onto the base. And then after that, what we'll do is the layering and the stacking, and you will see how beautiful, and it's already beautiful. I mean, this is just lovely. This is just lovely, and we haven't even started. I mean, really. I mean, but you see the time it takes to sew, okay? Now, so this piece is all sewn on beautifully. So I need to select another piece over here for my stash. Let's see. I have, no, that will cover everything up. Okay, this might be a good piece. Nope, that's quite wide. I'm actually looking for a piece that will fit a little bit nicely there, 1/8 of an inch over. So now I may have to trim, but I'm looking, no, maybe this will work. This works. Now, this has a hem on it. See that? So this is going to be, and that's okay. This just adds a little texture, adds a little character. You can totally leave that on. So I'm going to add that, and like that. Let's see. I kind of like it just like that. And it's 1/8 of an inch over about, and here actually comes way down here. It actually comes way down. Now I have options. I can do something like that if I want this piece to show. And now I don't want to confuse you, but I want to show you the diversity, all the different types of options that you have. This is actually a better piece, and this would have to be ironed, but I'm loving this right here. Yeah, it's a nice long piece right there. But you have options. You're like, okay, you can do something like that, and then you can add a little piece. Let's find my little pile here. Oops, almost lost that. This is an interesting piece, actually. Um, very interesting. I mean, you start really looking at these pieces. I mean, I don't think that would be necessarily very pretty by itself, to tell you the truth. I'm not crazy about it by itself, but you put it with about it by itself, but you put it with something and the whole thing changes. Um, so I'm looking for my little pile of fabrics. And this is another nice little piece. See how obscure that is? I don't have to cut that. I can add that right there. Um, I really, really like that. So, uh, so you could play around with it a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this to the side for the moment. Um, and I'm going to sew this one in place just as it is. And because this is where you can use your scraps. My needle over here. So I've got a little bit of thread on there. So I'm going to pull that through. I'm going to tie that and use what I have left over here, which is just a little bit, but it will get us started and get it into place. And this is the beauty of working, becoming more and more conscious of our role, let's say, in how we can really be more mindful of recycling. I mean, it makes you really, it's a challenge because the first thing you want to do is cut this piece. That's the first thing I wanted to do. And I've got to turn this so I can sew it. But it makes us have to think a little bit. Um, and none of us may be doing this perfectly. It's not like we have a manufacturing um, building set up and we are going by the spec. But just the fact that we're being mindful of trying to use these pieces and not cut them to make more scrap is, believe it or not, it's huge because the amount of solid waste of individuals per year is astounding. Um, and then in the landfill, it ends up, to like 92 million, I guess is what the number is now. So, um, that's why I say, that's one of the main focuses. And the other one is, um, enjoying yourself, being creative, doing what you love to do, expressing who you are. Totally just enjoy yourself and love your creations and know that the way you did it, guess what? That is perfect. That is to spec. That is to your individual spec. That is who you are. Bottom line. Um, but look at this. I'm telling you, it doesn't get better than that. So, let's see, how long are we on? Because I don't, I'm going to tell you, I really want to do a few more of these pieces because I want to really show you how I'm doing this. So we're going to continue. If you're happy with that, um, let me know. Let's see, I'm losing my I don't know about you guys, but I'm sitting in one spot and I just lost my thread. And I got the black thread over here, but that's not what I'm using. I'm using the white. Now, where on earth could it have gone? Because did any of you see this? You can't make this stuff up. I'm telling you. So I can't find it. It's gotta be here. But welcome to my world. This is how it goes. Um and I've got a donut sitting here that I was gonna have with my coffee. Hopefully my doctor's not watching because I shouldn't have given her the website, the YouTube channel. So Anyway, I'm gonna switch over to black and because the white was right here. So who knows? That's all right. Make that long enough. Now, the beauty too of the different threads is that you can, when you use different threads against the different color fabrics, it pops. It just does. So I'm going to put this down and we're going to continue because I really do want to show you kind of how I'm doing this and that there is really no absolute. It's just how you are stitching each piece on. So I have this open still and I want to leave that open. That's what I was going to do. I think what I'm going to do for the sake of just stitching everything and moving along is that I'm just going to stitch them all into place. And I think it will just make this whole project move along a little bit. And then we can get a little strategic in a few minutes again. And now I want to share with you because this is how I've been kind of doing things. I've been kind of cutting across and doing things like that. I've been stitching like that, but we're just going to stay on the edge and go straight around. If we don't have enough thread, we'll add our thread. If there's some stitches there, that's okay. 2 rows of stitches is not going to hurt anything at all. If you don't want to go over that row, let's say if there's a row, you don't have to. You can cut your thread and then pick and then you can cut your thread and then pick and then start from where the next area is that you need to stitch your patch down in. Oops, this fell off again. I don't know about you, but when I turn my fabric, what happens is it pulls on the needle a tiny bit there. So now I'm just going to stay. Again, the shape is different on this particular fabric, and I'm just doing my sashiko stitching right along the edge, and I'm pushing my needle through. Now, the more stitches you have on there, pushing it through makes it nice and easy to get it through all of those stitches. We typically do several stitches at a time. Here we did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We did 6. So, but we did 6 because it flowed beautifully. It flowed. There was, you know, it wasn't like there were double or triple fabrics stacked or layered, and slowing me down. But that's okay. Now, I'm going to go across this way because I now have a couple of pieces of fabric. I got a couple of pieces stacked right there. So now I want to catch my plaid piece, and I'm staying along the edge, as obscure as that edge is. And it is, because it's a little rough. It's not straight. And look here, it's going to go like that. It's going to jet around. I even have, kind of like a little seam. That's okay. The seam can stay. The seam gives it character. That's okay. You can leave the seam. That's totally fine. Now, the other thing you can do, and I don't want to confuse people, but as you begin to own your sashiko stitching, Okay, as you come into your own artsy way of doing this, you can do whip stitches around these. You can make this as as designy and artsy as you want. Um, but you can do your whip stitches along the edges. You don't have to do the running stitch, or you could do your running stitch and then go back, excuse me, and do whip stitches. So I'm just staying on the edge. Now here I turned a corner while I was on the other side of this and it came out, but that's okay. It didn't come out. The stitch was it's more of like a little free form. Oh, that's the other thing you could do, total free form, like have these stitches go seriously all different ways. You do not like, in other words, what I mean is you could do running stitches around an edge and then maybe you do back and forth stitches, horizontal stitches around a different piece. So you can take ownership of your own, artistic expression. Now, this is all sewn in, okay, on the edges. So I'm pulling this here and pull that, tie that. And we're going to just take a look at that for a moment because this is what I love to do is I love to just study the design as it's coming together. Now, and something I do, now see I have a that thread and needle there because I know I have to come back over here. So I should do that before too long. However, it's good to leave markers for yourself like that. But this piece, when I come back around and I start studying it a little bit more, I may see, well, wait a minute, I want some more stitches here because yes, I went along the edge, but I want to go along, get closer to that edge and catch that really good. So those types of things are very common and expected. And we could do it even now. We could come back and reinforce this whole thing now. Now, the reason I come back around to do it is because that's where I do, and I'm going to just pull, um, I want to pull a smaller piece to show you because this is part of what I might do for, oh, maybe this piece is better. No. Oh, here's a good piece. This is smaller. I may come back around and decide to put stacking like here. So after it's all said and done, and these can go different ways. And this is what makes the whole thing pop. Or you can keep them, symmetrical with your, but the beauty of the layering is that what happens is you just have it just adds to the design. I can't even explain it. It's such a humble, beautiful way to design. But okay, now we're going to come and we're going to add a few pieces here. Now these are stitched all around the edge. So whatever I put here is going to go on top. That's a given. So I could pick this piece right here. Um let's see. Let's see. This is an interesting. This is round. This I must have cut using that for something, but it comes because this is on an angle and I need to cover at least 1/8 of an inch. So whatever I pick might end up covering a lot of that. So I'm gonna see if I can find another obscure piece that might give us, yeah, this is good. Now this is actually what's happening here, these pieces are not as big on some of them, so I want to be careful because this one's really small. So I'm going to stay away from that one because I do want a little bit larger than that because this is a larger uh project. Let's see. This is pretty good. And this one we have over here, which is really very pretty. Um So, oh, we did have this piece. Yeah, we did have this piece. Now that's wrinkled. That has to be ironed. But that's linen, so that wrinkles easily. But that's a bit too wrinkled. We'll have to get that one. Oh, here's the other one. So they've got a couple of those. Okay. This is what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with this one. Just because it is a little different. And I'm going to do like that. I'm going to do it like that. And you can do it like that. You can do things on an angle, it's totally fine. Um, and or you can keep things nice and straight like that. Now that way kind of covers up a lot of that checker, and I really, really like that checker. So I'm gonna go like that. And that's covering that. There, that's good, right there. Now, this is kind of raggedy right here. So I'm just noticing that right there. So look at this piece though. If you look at this piece, this is kind of like almost, I mean, you almost start getting some forms that start creating like images and whatnot. So this is kind of ragged up here, but that's okay because this particular piece, I'm going to be putting a hem, I'm going to be covering that, and I'm going to sew that. So I'm going to use this piece. Now, right here, I have a space. So I'm thinking, to be honest, I want to move this. I'm going to move that over a tiny bit. And I'm just giving you ideas on how you can play around with your pieces here. Now we had this little piece earlier, and I think this is so interesting. So I'm going to take this piece, and this fits very nicely in going 1/8 of an inch up there. It lets my checkers still show. And I'm going to put this one right next to it. And that's what I'm going to do there. Now, these pieces are, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not crazy about them, but I can tell you right off the bat, I know what I'm going to do with both of these pieces is I'm going to come back over and I'm going to do something like that later. I'm going to do with a smaller piece, I'm going to do what they call the stacking or the layering. And this is a perfect example of what, for whatever reason, whether it be because you want to bring out the design a little more, or down here, we have a space that's showing. And this is all sewed. So whatever goes there is going to go on top. So we're going to sew these into place. And then I'm going to come back over. I'm just showing you ahead of time, put a piece of fabric there. But I think that will be a really good start for you. And so how does that sound? Oh, let's see. Are we getting some people here? Hello from South Texas. Yeah. Okay, love the layering. I'm in the process of attaching my large pieces, and you and I to add pieces of stripes for that. Yes. Yes, the layering and adding those strips. Oh, absolutely. That is what makes it pop. And now I don't know if you were on here earlier, South Texas, and welcome. But one of the things I was kind of emphasizing is that because you are sewing your pieces onto a base, you have your top layer, you have your base, and then you have your backing. That's your quilt. Those are your three layers. If you do want to make your quilt heavier, you can add batting between that backing and your base. But yeah, I mean, in just what you were just saying, the adding the layers and the strips like that, that's like another layer. I mean, that's adding more substance to your quilt. And it's just, I don't know, it just comes together. It's just unbelievable. I seriously, as long as I've been doing this, I still can't get over how beautiful this simple process is. And you do. You learn to improvise, you learn to kind of see ahead a little bit, like, okay, I'm going to do some layering here as I go. And it just comes together. So I'm just going to sew. I'm going to go around this, up the edge here, and then I think everybody's been getting it pretty good. And I was afraid I did confuse people when I'm saying leave the edge open so you can underlap or overlap. But I think now, since we did that smaller piece earlier, this piece, and you see here that yes, you can go ahead and sew each of these pieces completely on. You can sew them completely on. You can do it that way. And then you can come back and you can do layering on top of those. Or you can just simply leave this open, leave and leave this open, and then do an underlap or overlap. Totally. And I'm so glad that you've got that. So, but as you go along, if you have questions on anything, I totally get that. So I'm going to put this down and just share with you this last little bit of round. So you totally um, are getting my vibe here on how I'm just going with the flow. I am just sewing, stitching, I'm sorry, and stitching, trying to stitch and talk. May not be going as smoothly as we hope for, but I'm just staying on the edges here and going straight down and getting this into place. If I have to come back up because it doesn't come back up perfectly, if I repeat a row, and the only reason I didn't start crossing through here, because I take shortcuts, but I don't want to confuse you at this point. We figure we get this down pat, and then it will become clearer to see why. And when we get to the whys, I have to be honest with you, there is no real reason. It just might be because it just feels better doing it that way. It's like I just wanted to do stitches across to get to the other side. It's kind of like the chicken. Why did the chicken cross the street? And it was just like really to get to the other side. And that's maybe why you would see Sashiko stitching right in the middle of my work going across, because that is how that's the way I wanted to go. And that's what I love about the Boro technique. There are no rules. in that way. There's really no rules except yours. So now came out here, so I'm going to come up this way, and that gives me an opportunity to come up here, get this sewn beautifully, go as far as I can with this stitch, and then I say, oh wow, this is great. That's going to be open. Perfect. Okay, did I plan that particularly on this one? I don't know. I don't think I planned it particularly. Now this is a hem that I'm sewing through, so that's a little difficult, and but that's okay. It works. It does work. It's just you can certainly cut your hems off, and you can keep them to use them for other projects in different ways. And but definitely going through the hem, I can feel I'm going through some basting there. I'm definitely going through fusing or glue or whatever it is that they use. Now, this is the other thing about scraps. You know, you've got that glue going into the landfills. I totally, if somebody wants to use fusing or basting and they're doing it that way, I'm totally like, do what's most comfortable for you. But I have a hard time with it because I'm always thinking of just that extra chemical in the landfill. I don't know, that's starting to like fill my mind a little bit more nowadays. So, and this is such a beautiful technique to it's simple. It's just sewing. And you know, you can machine stitch this too. We're going to do some top stitching slow-mo and freestyle, and we're going to do that. We're going to make quilts like that too, because those quilts are all scraps. I see someone saying something. Thank you. Yes, I'm considering adding a panel sheet material for the batting. Yeah, glad you addressed that. Yeah. Yeah, you know, I was thinking about that when I first started like sharing this with everyone. The big question was, where's the batting? And I'm like, you don't need a batting. But some people, yes, you can add a batting. Absolutely, you can add batting. Now, cotton sheets are, in my opinion, the most perfect because you don't think it's very heavy. Once you have that in place, part of that piece, it's like, it's heavy. I mean, it does add, and it adds warmth because now you're working with a number of layers, and it's beautiful. It will make for an absolute beautiful piece. And batting, here anyway in Vermont, there's tons and tons of batting that you can find in the thrift shops. Filling too, like if you're going to make little toys and whatnot, you know, stuffed animals, they have lots and lots of filling. So now with this piece, I'm stopping here for a moment. I just want to show you before we come to our end, but I'm going to turn this. So you see here, I absolutely have the option to completely keep going to sew all of that down. But I'm like, well, wait a minute. I have a space over here. This one is sewn down, but maybe I'll leave that open and I can add a piece. I want to get a bigger piece here. Here's a piece. This is a good piece. But this piece, I don't feel the rhythm. So that's something I'm really going for with this, is I really want to feel that rhythm. So this piece is pretty darn good. And this has, look, this scrap, you know, it's cut like that. well, the thing we always want to do is like we're inclined to cut it perfectly. No, we're not going to do it. We're going to leave that. So I'm going to flip this up and I'm going to bring this here like this. Because guess what? You can do this. You can do this. You can bring this down. See? Look, that's going over this piece. You have an opening right here. That's okay. This is part of your Boro building. And I have a tiny little piece here. I can flip right in here and do like that because I like that little curve. I like that little curve. Or what I can do is I can move this over a tiny bit. Like I can play with this, right? I can bring this piece down and now and say, oh, I've got a patch. I got a patch to work with, and I can challenge myself a little bit. I can challenge myself a little bit, and I can put one on an angle. I love that. Now, the only reason I built that with a few different pieces and didn't do piece by piece is I'm just showing you the process after I get this. And let me show you here. After I get this piece sewn into place, that's how I could do it. Or I sew it just straight over, sew that all together, leave this open and tuck that under. I could do that. I could go like this. There's so many things that you can do and so many different ways to do this. So, there, like I said, the rules are your rules. So, but with this, the beauty of this way and of this, I'm going to put those over there, and is piece by piece. So right now, I like this. And so to complete the vision for you anyway of this particular piece, what I'm going to do is finish sewing this in place. I'm going to finish this. And then I have to pick this up actually to, I don't know, let me know if you're finding that too. It typically is sashiko stitching. You're holding the fabrics in your hands. That's the easiest way. Some of you might find it easier by placing it down on the table. I'm going to tell you why this needle is not flowing. This piece, this pink piece, as beautiful as it has some spandex in it. It has, look, let's see if it shows. Yeah, you can see, that has spandex in it. So that's the rubber that I'm working through. That's the rubber. So, but I just stay along the piece that I'm working with, this yellow piece. I want to finish sewing that on. So, because I kind of played around a little bit and I came over and I'm like, okay, I'm going to finish it after I add a piece where I'm underlapping. Okay, so I love this. I completely love this. I wish I wish there was a way I could see you. I guess some of you, you've come on, you've opened some accounts. You could, if you wanted, if you're comfortable, you could upload your beautiful pieces onto uh your accounts. That's one way to share with all of us. Another way, excuse me, is which is why I joined Patreon, is I want to be able to share and see more of people's work. So I guess we can do it that way. I do not think, if there is, let me know. a way to share on the comments. I don't think so. I think on the comments on YouTube, I think we have to go through, like you have to go through your account. Um, but yeah, I would love to hear and be able to see some of these pieces. Okay, so see, this is now I'm running out of my thread, so I'm being conscious of that because it keeps flipping through on me. So I'm going to make that my last stitch. And I think you get the idea. Let's see here. So what do you think of that? Let's see. So on this piece, so I'm going to take that pin out. On this piece, you see your next space that you're going to fill. Whoops, here. The camera plays tricks on me. I'm going to put this back down. This is our next space that we would be filling. And that's pretty much nice rectangle. Down here, we have, like I said, a little bit more funky stuff going on. So what I'm going to proceed to do when we get off camera is I'm going to sew this, and I might leave this open at the bottom until I've deciding what I'm going to do, or I may just sew that whole piece. But I want to finish this piece right here, and then I'm going to move to my next space. And so it might be, let's see here what we have. Ah, this is cute. Now look, this is an idea. This is kind of a lacy piece. There's nothing wrong with putting a piece like that there. That kind of it's kind of blending. We've got a lot of yellows going on there. This might be a good piece. And yeah, see that? Now we've got a seam. We could cut the seam off or we could leave it. If we leave it, it just gives it a little more substance, a little. That's adorable, actually. That's adorable, actually. So now with that, what you could do is just completely sew this on and then place your next piece on. Or you can leave your edge open and kind of play around with that too. Anyway, I hope that helps. I hope that you got something out of that today. I appreciate you being with me, and I love the questions and the comments. And so, yeah, so we'll plan on, excuse me, we will plan on doing this next Saturday at 11. We'll see where we're at on the project. I think I could time it so that so a couple things before we go. Actually, I am planning a project for Yo-Yo to do a yo-yo quilt, as someone had asked about that. So that project for the yo-yo quilt, I'm going to do in April, the beginning of April, pretty quick. I'm going to have a how to do that, because if I do the whole quilt, it's going to take forever. And someone asked for that, but I'm going to put that over on that particular video over on Patreon for a how-to. And so we cannot, so then that's there. And if you really want to see that, you could just do a free trial and scoot on and take a look at that. Because at some point we'll do a sew along on that, on the yo-yo quilt. Yes, I will take pics to show. Absolutely. Let's all awesome. Beautiful, Brenda. Thank you. Yeah, because this way you get to see everybody's style, their energy, what they're drawn to. And I tell you, I was even thinking about the different fabrics people use in different states in the United States because people have a different dress code going on. And so I'm really curious on that. But anyway, so I will be giving an update Monday morning on the Patreon live. I'll go live and do a update. So everyone, you have a beautiful, beautiful weekend and thank you for being with me.